I got an idea for you.
Okay.
Like, you can launch an audiobook, but it doesn't mean that it's just going to sell just because you have your audiobook on Amazon, right? So it's
Mhm.
about getting the attention to it. That's the marketing plan. And there's Lady Lexi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm actually at a friend and she made dinner. So, always good.
Great. So Lady Lexi's been part of Movement Makers for over a year now. Amazing. And so we're doing this as a special celebration. So you've sat through a lot of the trainings and gotten a lot of the value and taken a lot of action. Where are you at now, and how can I help you get to the next step?
Well, right now I just released the ebook, Uncover Your Mindset. And I'm in the middle of creating an audiobook. So I'm like, okay, where am I going to promote this and how? So I'm a little bit like, okay, what's the next logical step?
What's the title of the book?
Uncover your mindset. What's keeping you from speaking out?
And who is it ideally for?
For people who do not know how to speak out, literally. So who keep to themselves and are prone to addiction.
And for
Very.
speaking out, like what's the biggest area that people who will read the book, or what do you think like people connect with the most that they need to speak out?
I guess the being heard, the being seen, the being understood, and understanding. The book basically explains why people don't do it, and it goes a little into what you can do to change it. But you're already getting a better understanding of why you react the way you do, that already helps. So people get a better understanding why they don't do what they do.
So I guess I'm trying to narrow down to a target audience that you can start with, because um, speaking out applies to every person in some way needs to learn how to speak out more, right? But it could be in relationships, it could be at your work, it could be with your friends, it could be in your business, it could be with your team. Like, there's so many different ways where this holds people back, and I guess I'm trying to
Well, my
figure out what
target
is.
audience is still the business owners who have employees who are 40 plus, have their own family, they have teens by that time, and they actually run into the fact that most of them are like hard workers, so they don't come home for dinner, and then they see their kids growing up, and then because they spend so much time with their mom, they actually don't listen to their dad anymore, and it's like the dad is coming last in the family. And also when it comes to employees, especially when they are in an IT business, uh, they really don't know how to get the most value out of their employees, and they want to like get their right hand wingman or lady, but they actually can't do it because those employees aren't entrepreneurs, so they don't know what it takes to do certain things, but they are not good at expressing it either. So it's
Okay, so
about
where does that person need to speak up the most?
both at home, so with the spouse, in order to explain what it is they how they need to communicate and what it is they want and need, and also to understand the spouse, of course, because that's also a big thing. Same with the children, and also when it comes to the employees, because if you don't do it, and well, your employees are part of like doing registration for calls, for instance. So it can be you can send an invoice to the clients, to the customers, and they don't do it. That's a waste of money. So they need to teach them what they need to do.
Got it. And then do you give them a structure to follow, or is it more just
Well,
here's why you don't speak up?
it depends on whether you are talking about the book itself, Uncover Your Mindset, or whether you are talking about coaching. So when it comes to the coaching, I listen to what it is, and I explain to them why they are reacting the way they do and why others are doing the same thing. So getting a better comprehension from both sides. And then I give them some advice, but mainly I listen to what's going on. And, the moment that they already understand what's going on and why it's not working, that makes so much difference.
So it's mostly just listening to them and giving them a space for them to share, and not as much on giving them solutions on what to do.
Well, I will give them solutions, absolutely, because they need to know what they need to change in order for other people to listen, and what they can do in order to appreciate them more and have them interact more. So, like for instance, just a very easy example, simple example, like doing meetings online at least once a week, or say at a fixed time every day. Just going through the day, and maybe on Friday, spend lunchtime together when that's possible. It's those small things that you know what's going on, what people are running into, and what they need help with, but also, just talking to them on a more personal level, so you actually get to know who is that employee and why are they doing the things they are doing and why are things not working out, because that's what they need to explain basically to their customer, or to their employee. So, for instance, if the employee is talking to the customer and the employee is not being very polite or is not service oriented, that's going to be a problem. That's then you're going to lose customers. If they have contract and they do everything for the customer, but it's not in the contract and they don't write it down, then he misses out on money. So it's about explaining how that works and why one does something and why one doesn't do something.
It's a fun challenge to dive into, because what you're asking them to do is very difficult for someone who's not used to speaking up, to then actually share what's on their mind, and then doing it in a way that is not confrontational. Like, if somebody is not used, if they've been keeping this thing bottled up inside them, and then they finally come out and say, you know what, you haven't done all this, and it's just like unleashes, that probably doesn't help the situation.
No,
very much either. So you're taking somebody who's poor at communication skills and then recognizing why they're poor and then encouraging them to speak up, but it almost needs the framework. So, because what happens if they go out and they finally muster up the courage to go and then talk, and if it explodes on their face, it's easy for them to go and retreat back into their turtle shell and say, oh my gosh, that was terrible, I'm never going to do that again. So, what's the safe space for them to be able to actually start building momentum? If you look at movement makers, it's one of the big reasons why I created the breakout rooms and then the challenge for people who are afraid to go live or afraid to do videos, afraid to make content. It's like, okay, you will partner with somebody else and they'll help you. And it's a friendly person that you're going to do the first one with and the first few with. So it becomes a lot easier the amount of times I've seen you go live now on Zen Show it's crazy. It's amazing. It's great.
Almost daily.
Yeah, that creates the skill where, a year ago or before you joined, might have been terrifying. It might have been, oh my gosh, I would never do that. And now almost daily, here you are doing it. And so similarly to speaking out, understanding the why is great. It's important. That's a foundation step. And then what do they need to do? Like, I think a challenge format could even work pretty well.
Yeah, I've got a mini course, free mini course I created with a number of steps. So the first step is that they need to figure out if they actually speak out or not, or why they keep silent. And then the first step is, what does it mean to be silent or silenced? So they can tell themselves it's no use. So then they keep themselves silent, which of course is the result of someone in their past telling them, I don't care what you're saying, I'm not going to listen to you anyway. So that's the first step. The second step is why would you remain silent, or why would you start to learn to speak out? Just purely the why. And then the third step is like, okay, so how are you going to do it? So actually I talk about, start with talking to strangers. Strangers are very helpful. It's people who are closest to you usually don't listen because that's safe. Especially when two people love one another, then they know the other won't run away unless you do it for too long, and then you get, of course, divorces. But it's for them to exercise, even if it's writing down, have a notebook, put it on the table. You write down what your thoughts are. The next morning, your spouse wakes up, sees the notebook, reads it, writes down their thoughts.
Okay, I got an idea for you.
Okay.
I like it. Okay, well, I like it. I don't know, maybe you hate it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I love getting to something specific, like talking to strangers. That's a great to do. That's just crazy scary, and most people will have a hard time doing it, which is fine. And yeah, ultimately we want to push people to do hard things, but most people won't follow through on a challenge because it's too difficult for them to do. But I love the idea of the writing down before you even worry about telling your spouse or telling your employee or telling even just getting the ideas out of your head and down into a piece of paper, I think is really valuable. But what if they messaged it to you?
Yeah, that's correct. And that's what I quite often do with my clients. We talk it over, and depending on what the situation is, I might actually be their voice. And sometimes I might even call someone, like one of their children, or for the younger ones, I might actually call a certain company and explain what's needed. So sometimes I'm literally the voice. And sometimes I just read it and then I'll say, okay, this makes sense, or you could change this a little bit, or hey, hang on, your emotions, or explain why. So not too long ago, there was this dad. He went to see his kids on the other side of the country. It was like 9 hours or 10 hours driving for him, like 600 miles. So he got there, and he and his spouse, they are in the middle of a divorce. It's not finalized yet, but he wanted there to support his daughters. And he got there, and his daughters were like, yeah, but hang on, we're on holiday here. So they went to see all their family, but they didn't want to connect with their dad. Yeah, maybe for a few minutes, having a coffee somewhere. So he called me and he said, I drove 600 miles just to see them and to support them, knowing that they were close to me, because both were abroad. And he said, but they didn't care, all the family came first, which was basically what always happened. And we made a little sort of ironic joke of it. He came last, even after the dog. So then I said to him, you can message them just saying, okay, bye, I'm going to leave because you have no time for me. I said, you need to give them the time to respond to this, and you need to explain that you're disappointed that you've driven like 10, 12 hours, I don't know how long it was, and that they don't have any time for you, whereas you wanted to see them. And you drove those 600 miles, especially for them. And well, in the end, he did. And the next week, I actually called his daughter. So, and I texted her too, like, okay, did you talk to your dad yet? Did you know he came for you? Because, so yeah, I do actually give them sort of like a structure, framework, or at least I I point out what they shouldn't say or what they are forgetting to say, because most of the time it's what they are not saying which is so valuable.
And the business model is what, coaching ideally?
Yes, so I give them a 3 mini course and then I start to coach them. Yes, and it could be one-on-one coaching, could be group coaching.
Is it dear Gabby or dear Abby? I don't know if you ever heard. There's this. I guess you don't even know because you're Dutch.
Yeah,
There
I
was this
know what you
call.
know, what you mean.
Do you know them? Like I could see this. I could see this in two ways. Either one, well, three ways. One, they write into you, you know, and it could just be a random email address, or it could be the actual person. Just the idea of, even if you gave like a 10-day challenge or something of who are the 10 people that you need to have a conversation with, and what would you say?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Like
as
it.
the time. And their emails or their messages is probably going to be terrible, right? Because they haven't done the training, and it's like, I'm tired of you being such a jerk, and it's like, okay, don't say that. but even just the process of not just having it all bottled up in you and telling like you're a stranger, like I'll be your stranger kind of thing, I think starts the healing process, which then opens them up to potential coaching, training,
Mm-hmm.
wisdom, etc. So some kind of program where they're emailing you every day for 10 days of different people. Two would be a Discord server. I'm all about Discord now. I mean, there's a challenge of getting people into the Discord server because people who already are on it love it, and people who don't have to be kind of trained on it. But it's so valuable because you can choose to be anonymous through your account, or you can choose to show your real face and name. And I think there's this line where some people, with the things that they're going to be sharing, they may not want it to be completely, oh, you can look me up and here's my name and you can find me. But there's such a community part to Discord as well, where if somebody's sharing what they're struggling with or the conversation they need to have with somebody, like the same messages that they might email to you instead could be a challenge inside the Discord group to share the 10 conversations that you need to have. And it could be divided if you want. Like you tell them one for your family, one for your boss, one for, whatever the assignment is. And then they write. And again, it's therapeutic to write, especially if it's anonymous. They don't have to, nobody will necessarily know that it's them, but then other people will then support them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to foster, and if anybody's rude or mean or nasty or whatever, you just kick them out. But you'll have a great community of people that just gives them love and support and encouragement. So it's not only you now, it's you plus other people. Now they feel like they're on a journey with each other, which is one of my biggest ambitions with Movement Makers and why I'm so happy is you're doing this thing with Zen and other movement makers, and like I'm not a part of it.
Bobby
Right?
and Gary.
Right? It's like I don't have to be at the center of everything. It's more about the members getting the connections and experience and the growth. So same thing with you. You created it. You build the club, but you don't have to be at the center. Not everything has to flow through you for them to get some kind of support. Because for somebody who's really afraid to speak up, they're alone. That's part of the problem. They don't have anybody to talk to. They probably don't have a best friend or anybody that they can, with any kind of trust, share what's going on. And so now they're part of community. Like a big part of healing is just community, to have people that you can share to, even if it's a picture, like an avatar, instead of your actual real face and name. And then the third day would be to have a live stream show where people share, and then you break it down. You give coaching, but it could just be people typing. They could be typing in their
Where
messages.
would I go live? Facebook, YouTube, here? Because actually, what I found out during those IG lives is I love doing interviews with people because
Mm-hmm.
it's so close to coaching. I love it.
So the challenge with, I think I love IG Live in general as the best place right now to go live. You can't type very much. So you can bring people in and coach them if they're willing to be coached like this. That's easy. But if you're going to do that challenge of, okay, today's day one of the challenge, you need to think about your spouse or significant other. We're going to voice up, and you need to share what you're going to share. Instagram one is real accounts. So anybody here, I see whoever's watching, it's like that's their actual name, and they may not want to share this personal thing in a public forum under their personal account. Would they go create a separate fake account or pseudonym? Probably not, right? So that's a little bit of a challenge. That'll probably be the same for most of the platforms.
I could do the Discord server, set it up, get people to respond in the community. So have the challenge out there and have them respond their answers in the community. And then post that I'm going to do either an IG Live with one-on-one, but I do like the idea of StreamYard too. But IG Live might be more accessible, that I'm going to say, okay, I'm on IG Live, so you can chime in if you want to. I don't know if there's a maximum amount of people you can talk to at the same time on IG Live.
Well, you can bring 4 people in on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you would want to do that, though. I'd probably keep it to you helping one person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to
think. Hot seat.
Yeah, exactly. That definitely works. If somebody wants to come and join you and you practice getting them through having that difficult conversation, I think that's fantastic. That's definitely a show. That's way more valuable than just making a standard talking head video. Here are the 8 things you need to know. Because any coach needs to be showing coaching. I just think there's something to being able to share the anonymous thing that they would want to say and having everybody else kind of react to it, and hopefully in a positive way, but you like leading the charge, you're going to attract positive people, and it allows them to feel seen and heard, even though it's an anonymous account. And that could be like the first step that they need to start believing in themselves a little bit more, to keep going on the journey. So how do you best do that? Because most of the platforms, it's a public name. YouTube lets you type more.
Discord, of course, can be anonymous, and Instagram can be just as anonymous. I mean, how many people do actually use their real name on Instagram? I don't think that there are many people who do it. It's Facebook who requires it. It's LinkedIn who requires it. But Instagram doesn't, as far as I can tell.
Are you saying that Andrea Castillo is not actually Andrea Castillo? And Blake Davis and Joshua Surya?
I say you can choose. You can choose.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I know. I get it. You can choose. I just think most people already have an Instagram account, and a lot of them have it tied to their actual name, and so then they'd have to create a separate Instagram account just to join the thing, which they may or may not do. And most of the platforms are like that. Like LinkedIn is all like that. YouTube's maybe a little more anonymous. And it lets you type more, which is great. So you can have bigger stories, because Instagram you're doing on the phone mostly. And you'd have to say, if you're doing Instagram, you'd have to say, like, what's the one sentence that you want to tell the person? Because they're not going to sit here on a live stream like this and type an entire page worth of stuff. So what's the one thing that you would want to tell? In one sentence, what do you need to tell your significant other or your boss or your employee or your kid or your best friend or whatever?
That's a good one.
What's the one sentence? Like and then you can acknowledge them. You can say, okay, if anybody here wants to actually practice that, you give us an example. What's the difficult? Imagine a difficult conversation you have to have right now. What's one sentence that you want to tell somebody? If anybody wants to to demo while we're here live. What's the one sentence you need to tell somebody that it's a difficult conversation for you, that you're kind of rolling in your head and you're not quite sure what to do, or you need to speak up somewhere. What's the one sentence that you would want to share? Put it down in the chat and let's see.
What's the most important
see if we have any brave volunteers who want to join in. But that's I think that could be a show. And it's just a place.
I would like to do a show, actually. So I've been wondering about it, like, okay, where would I do it? And maybe I should do it both on IG Live and maybe StreamYard version on YouTube, like Zen does. I don't know. Maybe that's a little less or a little more anonymous. But I like the idea of actually just doing one sentence on Instagram.
Yeah, my gut is just that it's too public.
Yeah.
I don't know that people would want to share. I think when you could definitely do coaching and have people come on and then you're helping them and they know that they're kind of signing up for that. But the show of like sharing your deepest secret or your biggest pain point or whatever, I think I think Instagram's a little too public for it. I think people are
then maybe StreamYard on YouTube would be the better option. Then
you can play with it.
See the faces.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube, it's still, you're logged in from your Gmail account. So it depends what you've done on your Gmail account.
I don't use my Gmail account to log into YouTube. But yes,
I mean, I'm Evan Carmichael everywhere. I'm okay being personal. I like it. My Discord is Evan Carmichael. I've just lived more openly. Just
well, maybe we can ask the people who are watching what platform they would prefer in order to put out there and one sentence.
Well, but here's a good example. Like I asked them and nobody put a sentence in.
Yeah.
So there's some, everybody here has an important conversation they have to have that they're afraid to have. And we did a call out and nobody wanted to do it. Only Tessa wrote, "Wonderful coaching. Can't wait to receive mine." Right. So I think there'll be a reluctance. What's a fast way to do it? Like email is great because it can be anonymous and it's just slow.
Now what we could do is if people post things on Discord, for instance, then I could use it anonymously on, for instance, an IG Live. So I don't say who it is. I just explain what type of person it is. And then I repeat what I've read. And then I can give my opinion. Oh, what are we talking about? We are talking about how to get people to write one sentence about what they want to express to someone else. And if they don't feel like they are under pressure because people can actually see who they are. And I would like to do it once or twice a week. I'm answering what's in the chat right now.
You need so I think in Discord servers a lot there you can host live spaces. You can have your own event, or you can still do an Instagram and then there's a chat. You need something rapid. You need something for like when people are actually watching you that they can react to and message you.
Yeah. And what I don't like about IG Live is that the comments, they disappear. So you can't see them again afterwards.
I'm going to keep thinking on this one.
Okay, that's a good one. So promotion-wise, with the lead magnets, I've got the free mini course we just talked about, as in why are you not speaking out? Are you keeping yourself silent? What can you do to take that first step? All that stuff. I've got my ebook, Uncover Your Mindset. I'm now I've recorded it and putting it out there in chunks of 10-minute plus on YouTube. So what would you say, because I've been thinking about selling it like an audiobook, an entire audiobook, and I was looking at Amazon and I was like, whoa, that's costing a lot of money. as opposed to using, what is it, KDP? But I'm not sure you can use it for an audiobook, KDP. So I'm still a little bit like, okay, what makes sense the most?
You need eyeballs on it, right? I mean, you can launch an audiobook, but it doesn't mean that it's just going to sell just because you have your audiobook on Amazon, right? So it's about getting the attention to it through great content, right? So the speaking is great and the lives are great, like what you're doing with Zan, etc. But it's creating your own kind of unique. Like if you were known as the person to share that one sentence with, or that one story with, you become a destination site that then people come and find you. They can't wait to see the next story that comes up. They want to get your course, buy your book, hire you, etc. Have you seen the Humans of New York account?
No.
The idea with that, I think it was every day. It was once a day, like just profiling a random person in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Random person, and share their story, because everybody has a story. I wonder if the live thing doesn't work as well. I can't figure out how to make the live thing work super well yet, apart from having coaching somebody on for sure. If you had
people are a little bit reluctant, I've noticed, to go on an IG live and being coached. They don't like
some
that.
people will. That's fine. Some people will, some people won't. I mean, yes, but some people will still. If people will go on Jerry Springer and talk about their deepest issues, like they'll go and talk to you, right? It's a percentage, but that's fine. It's even if it's 5%, it's just finding those 5%. That's fine.
Yes, because I love it. You know, if people want to do have a coaching session on IG Live, just come hop on in. You know, that's what I would say.
Yeah, well, it's recruiting. It's building, like you can DM everybody who follows you and say, I'm doing this show, and do you want to be coached by me for free starting tomorrow at whatever time, right? That you could set up immediately. You could have people DM you or email you. If you go back to that, like random, the email idea, email me the one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take them and you turn them into Instagram posts. And
exactly.
Never say the name.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And that's why I also love the idea from doing it on Discord, because there's a community. There are it doesn't involve their loved ones. It's basically a community of strangers who later on become friends, possibly.
Yeah.
And then they can write like 10 sentences or, you know, a short paragraph, and then I can get into it.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Discord idea too.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't worry about audiobook. I think audiobook doesn't matter. You know, it's just about getting, you've already created the content, and the ultimate goal is to sell your coaching services. Yes. So you already have what you need in terms of the sequence. You have your free course, you have your book, and you have a coaching program. Perfect. You don't need to work on an audiobook or anything else. You need awareness and the ideas that have come up. So you have an IG live show where you're actually coaching people, but you have to book them in advance. You know, just like this. This was booked, right? This was in my calendar. Sandra, my assistant, booked this, right? So you need to book people, and the easiest way to do that is to DM everybody who follows you and say, I'm starting the show talking about tough conversations and speaking up. Do you have a conversation that you'd like to share?
Yeah, sounds good.
If 80% of the people say no or ignore you, great. 20% are responding. And you start booking people.
Yeah, I can do that. That's not too hard. So I can do that. So I'm just thinking about when I would create the Discord server. I like what you have with Believe Nation. Of course, my one word is inclusion.
So like IG Live is number one. Mm-hmm. Discord server is number two. It allows more anonymity, but also people to share. I think you need to prompt them to figure out like what are the conversations they need to have. So tell me something you need to tell your mom, and tell me something you need to tell your boss, and tell me something you need to tell somebody on your team, and then you're reacting and responding to people. And then the third one is the email, where they can email it in and you turn it into an Instagram post, no name. And with email, they can create whatever fake email. It doesn't matter as long as it gets to you. But then you're creating content from it to help them kind of get it out to the world, and also to help other people who have that same problem feel less alone.
Yes, true.
Yeah. So I don't think you don't need any more products. No audiobook, unless it's just like really on your heart. Oh my gosh, you really need an audiobook. And it's then into awareness. Those three things: IG Live, Discord, and email turned into Instagram posts.
Yes. So do you think I should do a live show once a week or twice a week?
As much as you can.
Okay. So I have the time. I mean, if I would get into one topic, it could be like half an hour each day, for instance.
Oh,
if
but
I have
like
enough
coaching.
input.
Coaching, book guests to coach.
Yes, so when they write their email, or the one thing they want to talk about, and which I can use as input, I could do that on a live show. If no one wants to get one-on-one with me, I could just get into the anonymous letter.
Yeah, you can. It's definitely not as good. Like I would focus the efforts on booking guests.
Yes. Okay, makes sense.
DM everybody who follows you. DM everybody who likes your posts, comments on your post. Video DM them and say, "Hey, I'd love to have it if you want. Next week, I've got an opening. Free coaching with me to talk about whatever the biggest conversations you need to have for you to speak up."
Yeah, I already did so with someone outside of the Movement Makers family, and that was kind of fun. Only it was like an hour and a half, and I was like, okay, that's too long. I shouldn't do that the next time. It was great conversation about losing their husband and the kid feeling depressed. How Corona influences them. It was really,
You'll
really,
love it. You'll love it. It'll be a lot more fun than just talking by yourself, looking at a text question that came in, and then you have to talk for it for 20 minutes. So immediately going and booking, like that's the homework for this week, is just go book. DM everybody who follows you, video DM, and book guests for your live show.
Okay, will do.
IG Live show, Discord server, email, anonymous in. That's the marketing plan.
Okay.
Let's go, Lexi.
I'll stick to it. Tell you tomorrow about it.
All right. Yes, tomorrow, Movement Makers. We'll see you there.
If you want to see another awesome one-on-one I did with an entrepreneur just like you, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I've never seen anything like that in my life. Whenever you have a visual product, show it. All you have to do is give value.